You're a career bureaucrat. You're also a space enthusiast and also a sci-fi buff. How did your life journey begin?
Some cosmic plan to the fact that I became Secretary Science and Technology, and then the government thought that she was handling a very light portfolio, so they added Secretary Culture. And I think with the two departments coming together, we were able to break a lot of silos, and we were able to do a lot of tourism activities based on space and astronomy. And I worked very closely with NASA. In fact, at that point in time, the Rajasthan government became the first government to actually put the NASA activity, the asteroid search campaign.
Right.
We did about 10 editions of that during my tenure as part of a budget plan. Because see, Rajasthan also has a heritage.
Yeah.
Savai Jai Singh actually was instrumental in the early mid-18th century setting up all these observatories. Two of them have survived. Time magazine actually in 2021 declared Jaipur as the Astro city of the world. Within few months of my joining, I organized a workshop to come and make presentations about what science is, what are the various schemes, how Vigyan Prasar works, how do you make small films on science. They showed us a lot of films on, very interesting films on science. So that created a lot of curiosity, and science is all about curiosity and wonderment.
Absolutely.
Everything that has happened in science is about these two words. Scientists work in silos of their labs, and they do a lot of translational work. Actually, they are problem solvers, if you look at it. But if you don't bring them out into the market and tell the citizenry the kind of work that they are doing, that they don't feel validated enough.
Right.
That bridge of science communication is missing between the scientific community and the citizenry. The Constitution, in fact, says that one of the jobs, 51A, says is to inculcate scientific temper. Right? So this communication, breaking the silos and connecting the dots, is very, very important for developing scientific temper, because it is a skill. It is a skill of how you probe into things. It is a skill of how you question. It is a skill of skill that works best for science.
Hello and welcome to the Space Club of India. I'm Sandeep Unitan, and I'm privileged to be joined today by Mugdha Sinha. Madam Sinha is the Managing Director of the India Tourism Development Corporation, and she's part of the Space Club. I'm going to be talking to her about space and much more. Ma'am, welcome to the Space Club of India.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
You know, I was going through your life journey, and your career graph is very unique. You're a career bureaucrat. You're also a space enthusiast and also a sci-fi buff. How did your life journey begin?
So I think it all began with the fact that I'm an avid reader, and I've been reading a lot. And that is how I actually see, when I was a child, I was exposed after the Asian Games in 82. We all had televisions. And
Color television.
Yes, color televisions at that. And I first saw Star Trek, and I kind of fell in love with Dr. Spock's. And that was my first very, very early introduction to sci-fi, if I can say. And of course, my transition as Secretary Science and Technology, which happened quite by serendipity, and it was by choice. It was the first time in my career that I could actually tell a chief minister and tell him that, why don't you give me that department? And because that has no Vidhan Sabha questions, and I was to do my Kailash Yatra, and that would have been my only passport to be able to take that 21 days leave to be able to do the Kailash Yatra.
This was when you were in the state,
This
Rajasthan.
was in 2019. And that was the last Yatra. After that, COVID happened, and the Yatra only opened recently.
Right.
So I think I find that there is some cosmic plan to the fact that I became Secretary Science and Technology. And then the government thought that she was handling a very light portfolio, so they added Secretary Culture. And I think with the two departments coming together, we were able to break a lot of silos, and we were able to do a lot of tourism activities based on space and astronomy. And we were able to set up a lot of astronomy clubs and do what NASA does, do look for the hazardous asteroids
Right.
which move in that elliptical belt between the two planets. And I worked very closely with NASA. In fact, at that point in time, the Rajasthan government became the first government to actually put the NASA activity, the asteroid search campaign.
Right.
We did about 10 editions of that during my tenure as part of a budget plan. Because, see, Rajasthan also has a heritage.
Yeah.
Savai Jai Singh actually was instrumental in the early mid 18th century setting up all these observatories. Two of them have survived. He set
Yes.
up one in Jaipur, in Varanasi, in Ujjain, and in Delhi. Two of them survive today. So Jaipur kind of has a legacy and a mid-age, mid-century legacy, and we only build on that. So we did our programs in Jantar Mantar in Jaipur, and the Time magazine actually in 2021, I remember July 2021, and this is also July, declared Jaipur as the Astro city of the world.
Right.
Based on the work that was happening there. We also did something very interesting at that point in time, because when I came back from my Kailash Yatra and actually took charge of my department as Secretary Science and Technology, I realized that there was not much public awareness about what this department does. So we thought, and I was also myself, I'm not a science student, I'm not an engineering student, I come from the humanities. So with that kind of a skill training in humanities, I understood that if I have to train myself and be competent enough to be the secretary of that department, one, I need to understand what the department does. So I looked towards Government of India, the central science ministries, and there were a plethora of them. I began with DST, and I remember Professor Ashutosh Sharma ji, who's also from Jaipur, was the secretary at that point in time. I did all that, and then within few months of my joining, I organized a workshop with Vigyan Prasar and DST and the support of all other science departments to train the journalist, because there was a program at that point in time about science communication. Right, how to write your PhD grants. The DST used to do that, and so I got a lot of science students, and also all what you call there is a department of public relations in Jaipur. Every state has it. I got there people who handle different beats in the ministry, in the departments. I also threw the invitation open to the press, electronic, and media journalist in Jaipur. We had a house full, and we ran that program for 3 days. And we got a lot of people, experts, to come and make presentations about what science is, what are the various schemes, how Vigyan Prasar works, how do you make small films on science. They showed us a lot of films on, very interesting films on science. So that created a lot of curiosity. And science is all about curiosity and wonderment.
Absolutely.
Everything that has happened in science is about these two words. So the idea was to generate interest in the department. And thereafter, I had loads of people who became what you call my accountability partners and
Right.
kept me on the toes. So everything I did, there were journalists coming and asking me, so how do we take this forward? What are you doing? So I think science communication and dissemination, because scientists work in silos
Yes.
of their labs, and they do a lot of translational work. Actually, they are problem solvers, if you look
Yes.
at it. But if you don't bring them out into the market and tell the citizenry the kind of work that they are doing, that they don't feel validated enough.
Right.
A soldier who stands on the border gets a lot of validation and a lot of respect. Scientists somehow lack that, because that bridge of science communication is missing between the scientific community and the citizenry.
But you also did something to bridge that gap.
No, let me just finish.
Yeah.
The Constitution,
Yes.
in fact, says that one of the jobs, 51A,
Right.
says is to inculcate scientific temper.
Right.
Right? So this communication, breaking the silos and
Yes.
connecting the dots, is very, very important for developing scientific temper, because
Right.
it is a skill. It is a skill of how you probe into things. It is a skill of how you question. It is a skill
Right.
of skill that works best for science. And if the Anusandhan National Research Foundation has to have very peer-sighted Scopus recommended, peer-reviewed scientific research in India. And if the rank has to go up, then I think that spirit of scientific temperament has to be inculcated. And for that, scientific communication and science communication has to really, really grow.
Right.
And I think in my time as Secretary Science and Tech, this is what we managed to do.
So you've also done something else for
Mm.
inculcating the scientific temper, which was
Yes.
the you pioneered the Astro night sky tourism in
Yes.
Rajasthan.
Yes.
Tell us more about that and how it kind of led to what we saw in Hanle in Ladakh.
Yes. So
Thousands of
what
kilometers away.
happened, in fact, it was thanks to COVID, to the pandemic.
Right.
In the pandemic, I realized that it was the best period of my life, and the 2 months of work from home that we all
Right.
got. I had a lot of work to do in the mornings. I was waking up at 5 o'clock, but at night I really didn't know, because I didn't know what to do. And then I realized that my own the science center in Jaipur had long time back purchased a Celtron telescope,
Right.
but it had never come out of its covers, right? Because they really didn't know much. They had purchased it, but they had never installed it. So I got a telescope installed at my place, a temporary thing that was exciting in itself. And then I learned from Rahul, and I want to mention his name because he actually came and put all those various lenses to be able to shift the dimension to see
Right.
different planets. And I learned a lot from the person who came to do the installation. And I had the western sky and the eastern sky both open, because we had huge windows in my Sarkari bungalow. And I started watching different planets, different constellations. And the maid used to come at that point in time. So I showed her. And I saw the excitement on her face. And then the next day she told me she wanted to get her nephew kids.
Right.
And they saw it and they were excited. Then I threw an open invitation to the people in my building. We only had 9 flats in that building, and I started. I was not alone then, because come night and
Yeah.
the bell would ring and everybody with proper protocol would come and look from the telescope. And then I realized that if I'm finding so much of joy from simply looking at
Right.
the stars, why should I not then open this to other people? And thankfully, by then time, I had also become Secretary Culture. So all the state monuments were available. So I launched the program with the Honorable Minister and the Chief Secretary at the Secretariat premises and showed them the full moon
Right.
on a full moon night. And, when you do it in a Secretariat premises, not just the chief guests, but also the drivers, the LDCs, the UDCs, the clerical staff, the MTS, apart from the officers, they all came. And it became a function in itself.
Right. It became
And
like a
exciting.
public movement.
Yes, a public movement. And then I realized, and we are still in the throes of the COVID. So
Yes.
we are still in 2020s. And I realized that while the monuments are not open in the morning because of whatever reasons, why can't we open them at night and show people the stars? And we'll do it only once a month. And I started looking at the conjunctions. Was there anything important happening in the skies?
Right.
So if there was a Jupiter and a Venus conjunction, I decided that day in advance and said, okay, we are going to open this monument. So we did programs at Jawahar Kala Kendra. I was also DG Jawahar Kala Kendra. So on the 3rd floor, in the Brahm Muhurat, which is at 4 a.m. in the morning. So my staff is telling me, ma'am, I don't think we'll get much crowd. I said, no worries. Your secretary will see it. All of us will see it. At least let's do a program. And you won't believe, there were 250 people when I reached at 4 o'clock in Jawahar Kala Kendra, standing in a queue to climb the 3 floors to go and see the telescope. And it was not just a telescope. We had a lot of amateur astronomers who, hearing this program announced on our Instagram handle, had come with their own telescopes. And that day we showed, and I also got to see, the rings of the Saturn.
Right.
So Mars, Saturn, Venus, and Mercury, and the moon. We were able to see all of that on that one particular day, because there's a particular period in January around the 25th, 26th, when you have a full planet parade. When you have
Right.
all the 7 planets in a line, it happens every year. So that became a program. And then we kept rotating and circulating this in different monuments. I have heard some very interesting stories where I've seen children actually forcing their parents. I know of a child, a young girl, who literally forced her parents from Kota to come to take her to Jaipur during the COVID because she had heard of this program which was happening in Albert Hall.
Right.
I'm given to understand by one of my senior colleagues that the chief minister also saw that program in the Albert Hall on television, captured by the local print and media. And that is what he said, that, okay, this good work is happening. Let's make an announcement in the Rajasthan budget and give these telescopes in all the 33 districts of Rajasthan. That was for the first time that a state had actually announced,
Right.
from being a department which had no presence in the Vidhan Sabha, no questions being asked. In the budget announcement, we had 2 full paragraphs on the NASA collaboration for the asteroid search program for the schools in Rajasthan, and also for setting up of these telescopes. And then we went a step further and we got the state tourism department, because Rajasthan has a lot of melas, the Pushkar Mela, the Bundi Mela, the Jaisalmer, the Jodhpur Melas. And we said that this is a good time to, bring the cattle fair and the cosmos together. We also did a program here with the French embassy. We did a poetry program on the full moon, where the poets came and spoke. And we also did a little, see-through of the moon through the telescope. And then when that program happened, the then finance secretary called me and he congratulated me and he put it on his Twitter handle, because I was not on Twitter at that point
Right.
in time. And then there was a debate that started on Twitter. That debate that started on Twitter came from another program that we had done in Sambar.
Right.
Sambar is both a historically important place. The salt is manufactured there. And it has a very quaint guest house with a very, very quaint lift that used to transport food during the colonial times. And it is, from the science point of view, it is one of Rajasthan's dark sky reserves. Of course, because of all that urbanization and halogens and stuff
The light pollution.
Yeah, the light, there is a light and ambient noise pollution which is happening there. We announced a program because during the COVID, there was this Lyrid meteor shower.
Yeah.
When I was a child and there was this comet, I had
Halley's
gone,
comet?
Halley's comet, yes.
86.
86, yes. 86, we were on a trip with my family to Chennai and we had actually seen the Halley's comet,
Right.
right? And suddenly when I became Secretary Science and Technology, a lot of deja vu kind of things happened and I saw the Lyrid meteor shower. I heard about it because I was following a lot of things which were happening in the cosmos. And I said that let's see it, because I wanted to see it. I organized a program and the bus would go from JKK, because about three hours at night from Jaipur. You won't believe, I went in my car spearheading and followed by the bus at the back, 2 bus loads of people which came. And there were cars which were following us. At some point in time, because it's night, it's a desolated area, I got scared. Then my driver told me, ma'am, these cars are all coming from Jaipur, from Delhi and Gurgaon. If you see the number plates. So I thought, I hope they are not coming here for some criminal activity, and if I get caught in something. But I realized that all of them, based on a simple announcement on a social media,
Right.
people had actually bookmarked their calendars and people from Delhi and Gurgaon came. So when we alighted at that spot, we had, these mattresses and everything to lie back and see. It was a delight, I can tell you. I met so many people who had come from Gurgaon and Delhi only to see the Lyrid meteor shower. And that started a lot of conversation about dark sky reserve.
Right.
And I've been following this gentleman who on Twitter who's been capturing Hanley, uh, and we also have an observatory at Mount Abu because of the fact that a conversation had started on dark sky reserves. The people in Ladakh approached the then PSA, and that is how the Hanley got declared, because there was a lot of buzz around
Right.
the dark sky reserve thing that we were doing. And that is how Hanley became India's first dark sky reserve. So I think if you look at India's own, you know, uh, Shastra, not Shastra, but Shastra, you'll find that we are embedded in this culture of dialogue, Vad.
Yeah.
है ना? And we've had Vidushi women doing conversations and winning debates, right? There's a whole literature around that. So I think conversation is very, very important. And when you talk of space and science
Yes.
and all aspects of these, because for whatever reasons, physics has really dominated the science narrative in the world for hundreds of years, right? It has been the most dominant of all the sciences that we have. And Carl Sagan has said something very important, which happens to be my favorite quote, that the entire society is so exquisitely dependent on science and technology, but it knows so little about it. So I think that last part, how do we disseminate? And one of the roles of my being in the civil service, being a non-scientific, non-science person, not non-scientific, has always been to be able to communicate science to the people, because just you are a historian, you will understand, just that you have historians and you have public historians. Taking from that analogy, it's high time that we create citizen scientists.
Right.
People who may not belong to the science stream, but who have interest in science and who can disseminate and at least have a scientific temper of looking at things. That is very, very important. And that, I think, is also one of the objectives, I hope, of this conversation, to disseminate this information and to learn from what is happening.
Absolutely.
Because it's the students. So if you can arouse curiosity in the students about space, then these are the students who will end up taking space science subjects later on as part of their career, not just hobby or as amateurs, because India will in times, not just India, but also the world, will need lot of trained space professionals
Yes.
for all the things that India has announced, right from the space policy to setting up of a PSU, NSIL, to setting up in space, the ISROs of India, all the departments, the atomic energy department, the space department, the DST, the DBT, all of these will need scientists, engineers, lawyers, journalists, maybe just popular science people, maybe also authors to write
Right.
sci-fi. Because I think this is this communication as subject matter, domain expertise, or just as maybe written literature, all of that will be very, very important in times to come, I
Right.
think.
So I was actually going to ask you that question, ma'am, about the fact that how the young people who are watching you now, enthusiasm is one thing, hobby, space as a hobby is another. But a career in space is something that's really interesting. They would really like to know if there are career opportunities now in space more than they were in the past.
Oh, a plethora of them. And I think science has always spearheaded um, innovations and inventions and discoveries. So I think the kind of effort that Government of India has put in conceiving how the future of India will be, because the future of India will be guided by critical and rare minerals, by a lot of engineering, by a lot of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the Make in India program. And we will need lot of skilled professionals, if I can stay, in the STEM. And today, if you look at the NEP, the STEM is not STEM. It is all about breaking the silos and connecting the dots. So STEM has become STEAM.
Right.
So art is also important, because if a scientist cannot explain his pitch, then he cannot attract the money. So many startups, so many vendors
Yes.
who have got encouraged by what government of India is doing right now in space. And I can tell you also, I'm a very small cog in the wheel, but I can tell you, when we did this Astro night sky tourism, and by the way, when I came to government of India as JS Glam division in the Ministry of Culture, the first high point, I came in October 2022. On 5th of January 2023, since I'd already done this Astro Night Sky Tourism, and I continued to work in the same space, also in Government of India. On 5th of January, I got the Honorable Ministers to inaugurate this program at India Gate. And we had the NCSM and the Delhi Science Center get their telescopes and show people the full moon. And the Honorable Minister at that point in time also said कि आप कविता भी करिए कल्चर के साथ, इसमें एक रात चांद के साथ, है ना? So then it was a very nice idea, and the Honorable Prime Minister actually tweeted this. And this was a high moment in my point, because so far I thought that this was not, people didn't know about it. But thanks to the people of Delhi, when we rotated this for one full year, because we know when the full moon is,
Yes.
the sky is so predictable, unlike anything else. So for the full year, we actually told people in advance through our social media that this is when we are going to show you the full moon. And we also told them the venue. So we took them to Qutub Minar, to Red Fort, to Jantar Mantar in Delhi. And that also became a very, very popular program.
Right.
And today, if you see, very recently, the PMML or the
Yes.
Nehru Center, they also did a Venus and Jupiter. They also asked people. So the program continues.
Right.
So what I'm always happy about, that the program has got institutionalized
Right.
and embedded in the scheme of things in the science centers here, which is very, very important. It should not be personality based. It should get institutionalized. So I always keep telling people that, the measure of success is something when you create a system, when success, the actual measure of success is when it gets embedded as a system, and then the system works for itself.
Right.
So I think that is very, very important.
So as a career bureaucrat, ma'am, how do you see space being used for governance and for, better delivery of services to the people? Is that something, is that a thought in your mind as
Yes,
well?
of course, the phone that you carry will stop working if our satellites don't don't work.
Right.
So everything that we do on Earth today has some interconnection with the space. People would only understand. I think this science jargon needs to be explained to people. We don't really think of it, but things that we do in our everyday lives,
Yes.
actually, a lot of it is governed by space. Cyber crimes, if you look at the underbelly, it all happens in ether, in ether that we call space, right? So space, today, the way we explore space, and we know that the Milky Way is not the only galaxy. There are other Akash Gangas in the world. And a lot of work is happening silently. So if I were to tell you what all happens, what all India does, so India has not only launched its own several satellites, there's a lot of work going on the LEO right now.
Yeah.
Chandrayaan 3, everybody knows, but we are also working on the Gaganyaan. A lot of other countries are also working on launching their own space satellites. We know Mr. Shukla has just come back
Yes.
from ISS. And I also remember something very interesting which happened when I was Secretary Science and Tech. The first astronaut from South America to dock in a similar manner as Mr. Shukla, who just went recently from India, was Marcos Pontes from Brazil. And then later on, he became the Secretary Science and Tech of Brazil.
Right.
And he invited me to deliver a keynote address at an event, which is a very international event called Astronomica, which is what they dedicate to space and science. So today, if you look at what happens in space, everything, ISRO makes an atlas where you study the satellite. That Turi burning which happens is also being monitored by the satellites. India has
Right.
19 satellites, and India has launched, if I'm not wrong, about 400 plus satellites for about 34 countries.
Yes.
So we've also contributed. We have a lot of satellite launching missions. We designed a lot of rockets. A lot of work is also going on right now. All the navigation that happens, all the the logistical supply chain that
Yes.
moves, your ice gate portal that Ministry of Commerce has. So if a ship is moving from Hormuz today to all that GPS tracking, the way we navigate, all the what is GPS tracking? Tracking is basically cosmo cartography of a
Yeah.
kind coming through your navigational satellites. So I think today, increasingly, as we move to a world where sensors and semiconductors and chips are going to be embedded in everything, and the miniaturization which is happening, I think space, you can't do anything without space and the ocean bed also. I mean, these two will be very, very interlinked in times to come. Um, and a lot of our functions today are all governed by things that are going on space. I mean, the radio that you listen to, I mean, the phone that you can do, I mean, internet, everything is embedded in space.
Right.
Without that, I don't think our lives in the future would mean anything. I mean, we won't be able to operate half the things that we do without even recognizing, because they have become uh, so run of the mill that we don't even think that, oh, space is connected in this. And also, just like there is a density of population here on the earth, today we are also looking at all the metallic gadgets and instruments that we've put up on space.
Yeah.
There is also what is called mapping of all the redundant, the technological obsolescence that is happening, and how do you collect that debris? How do you map that debris? So I think we will need a lot of people to be able to do that. And not just that, when when any astronaut goes up in space, there is also the biology, there's also the chemistry, the chemical locha that must be happening, the
Right.
food,
Yeah.
kind of food that you can eat. All that, there are also sciences for that. So you really
Yes.
don't have to go to space. But there is something very interesting called the bio space field, where you actually study the impact on a human body. So there is biology, there is biotechnology,
Right.
there is engineering, there is space diplomacy. I remember something very interesting. Uh, so when we were doing this, there was this Mars launch which was happening, and because we were in science, NASA sent us that, okay, whenever the Mars will be going, please fill in if you are interested, and they sent you a receipt of that. Of
Right.
course, it was just marketing outreach that they had done, and we'd all filled in. I still retain that folio which says, okay, Mugdha will be going to Mars and so and so. So there is also, people are actually working for high net individuals. People are also looking at, can we send individuals as part of space tourism to space, maybe to the ISS, like
Right.
today people, like it's become so important. So people are going to the Everest base camp, like it's
Yes.
just taking a trek. People are going to Antarctica. It's almost become touristy to be able to go to Antarctica now.
Space tourism would be
So space
in
tourism
the realm of
also,
the possibility.
I think, will become possible in times to come, because of the fact that yes, there will be many people, including me, would be interested to see what the space is like.
You plan to visit space?
I don't know. I'm just saying that this is also an opportunity. I mean, of course, I don't know whether it will happen in a lifetime, but there are a lot of people.
Right.
There is an organization, private organization, which is actually selling you a piece of the moon.
Yes.
So people are also landmarking lands and selling, okay, this is a little piece of moon. People are actually buying. People are buying land on moon. There are organizations today
Right.
which are, and I think there will also be a lot of, just like you have the commodity markets. We never thought that wheat will be sold on the commodity markets at some point in time. Metals are part of the commodity market. I have a feeling that space and things that happen in space will also enter your stock exchange at some point in time, and people will be trading on those pieces, little pieces
Of the moon or
of the moon, of the space, of the Mars. Who knows what the
Right.
future has in store? But I think there's a lot of interesting things that can happen also as part of
Right.
tourism. You can do a lot of simulator
Right.
stuff. You can show a lot of 3D films about the moon, and some very good, interesting sci-fi movies have been made. Today, I read Frankenstein. I don't know whether you've read Mary Shelley's
Of
Frankenstein.
course.
And when I look at AI today, I keep going back because it reminds me of that book and our own contributions in making something we may not be able to control later on. So interesting things. You never know what space is so boundaryless and limitless. So one really doesn't know what will happen in the future.
What are your plans in the ITDC, ma'am, to promote space? Do you have any, given your overwhelming interest in this subject and your
So
track
my
record?
interest in my personal capacity now, because I'm not dealing with science, and my professional this thing right now, I just mentioned space tourism, but of course, it is too incipient an idea
Right.
to launch. But when I was in culture, we were doing a lot of conversations around science. We in fact even called Rakesh Sharma ji, who was very nice to
Yes.
give us time and do a conversation for us, Dr. Kasturi Ranganathan ji at that point in time. So we did a lot of Dr. Chidambaram on the National Technology Day. So I think as of now, in my current assignment, I don't think there is much with regard to space per se, but yes, a lot to do with oceans.
Right.
Lots to do with the turtle trails, if I can say that. So oceans are really a part because we are still terrestrial beings, and I don't think the democratization of movement towards space has happened yet. But in the future, maybe when there is, of course, and the astronaut sky tourism, yes, we mentored people in Uttarakhand when
Right.
I was in culture. A lot of people reached out from Bangalore. The interesting thing that has happened, that what the government of Rajasthan and government of India
Yeah.
was doing for free.
Right.
Today you have startups in Bangalore, and you have people, lot of private startups around astronomy and these space clubs, which are actually charging a bomb.
Right.
And have made, there's a whole economy around this astro night sky tourism in different parlances. And it has become a very touristy activity, and people actually look forward. There's an astro sky machan somewhere in Nimrana.
Right.
I'm given to understand, where you can stay in that machan and do all kinds of observations.
And this
So
all-
just like wildlife, just like when way back in the 60s and 70s, when we started doing all the legislation around air, water, wildlife, conservation of the wildlife, and started declaring these reserves and these sanctuaries, wildlife tourism has picked up. Today people want to see the black panther, the snow tiger, the brown bear, etc. in Ladakh, all of that. So just like that has happened, even these stories about space. And can I also tell you something very interesting? When we did that Lyrid meteor shower in Sambar, we had this amateur astronomer who actually came around telling us stories about the various constellations. And see how science and our rituals are embedded, and we don't even realize it. I'm given to understand that in the South, when people get married, they take the bride and the bridegroom to see the Arundhati star. Which is, so if you see the star on that day, your marriage is going to be a very robust one, because you've both the groom. So you looking towards the sky has always been very important. 2025, you had the Mahakumbh.
Yeah.
If you go back and see, there's this famous adage that says, no, as above, so below. Who gives an invitation to come to the Mahakumbh to all the people? There is no agency which invites all those people who come to Mahakumbh. How do they know when the Mahakumbh is starting? They know because there is a particular movement happening in the sky.
Right.
When Jupiter enters Capricorn, you have the Mahakumbh in Prayagraj. When the same thing enters Leo, you have the Singhast Kumbh in Triambakeshwar in Nasik. So it is all governed by the movement in the sky and the
Right.
stars. If I can give you another analogy, they say when baby Jesus was born, the three Magi's that came, they looked at the North Star. Before the Navi in satellites came in, our seafarers from Odisha were going to the South Asian countries.
Yeah.
From India, we know we had trade relations with a whole host of countries, Greece and Rome and Mesopotamia. How were the ships navigating the oceans? There were no lighthouses at that point in time. There were no navigational instruments. They were all looking at the stars
Yeah.
and deciding.
Stellar navigation.
Yes, stellar navigation.
Right. So you're also part of the Space Club of India. You're one of our Navaratans. How do you see the Space Club of India promoting space awareness in India?
So I've recently been introduced to the whole concept of the Space Club, and I must congratulate and compliment General Pannu and you and everybody who are the founders of the Space Club. Because I think something like that was very much essential, because
Right.
while the government is doing a whole host of things at the policy level, at the executive level, at the legislation level, the government would also need huge amount of arms and limbs to be able to disseminate
Right.
what the government is doing, and also to create a body of people who can be like a think tank, who can ideate and who can also generate and disseminate this information and be a bridge between the civil service and the citizenry at large. And I think the Space Club, because it's just in fact coming about, I think can play a very, very instrumental role in doing that. Because we'll need aggregators. Because when you talk of space, the 5-letter word is very disaggregated in terms of the knowledge that will be required to be able to bring it all together. And I think a body like this can also be a federation for all the space clubs that are there, the astronomy clubs, the amateur clubs. There are a lot of individuals and institutions which are working on this, and we can all aggregate the collective information of all that exists, map it, document it, do data analysis, and then also allow people to write. Uh, just like you have sports journalists, I think there is high time that we also develop a breed of space journalists who understand the subject. Then, of course, we haven't spoken much about space diplomacy.
Yes.
Because you have conventions, you have international bodies that look at space, and I think the coming together of all these bodies and all that work that happens there will need to be disseminated, will need to be understood, absorbed. You'll also need colleges and universities to look at space in that broader perspective. The Indian Union of Astronomy that works from Bangalore has also introduced a course based on the work that we did as part of the Astro Night Sky tourism. So I think it will have a lot of interlinkages with culture, with history, with tourism, with engineering, with law, with journalism. So I think we need to map our people, because if
Yeah.
you're looking for India's leadership in the space in the next, by the time of 2047, when
The
India
developed
completes
country. Yeah.
100 years,
Yes.
and moving, of course, from the bicycle man who carried those parts of the rocket
Rockets.
on a bicycle, to be able to actually launch many more people into the space. I think we will have to begin now,
Right.
because 20 years hence we will need people who are 5 or 6 years today to be able to absorb STEM. Government has launched several programs for Vigyan Jyoti for women
Right.
in STEM. A lot of stipend is being paid. So if people who are looking, if
Yes.
young girls are looking at this program, I would really, really encourage you to take STEM as a subject and look at space and cosmology and stuff like that, astronomy, avionics, and all of that, engineering, even law for that matter, because a lot of space jurisprudence will need to be developed as we go, because you have a lot of vendors, a lot of issues, and you'll have to lay the law of the space, if I can say in that sense. So a lot of work needs to be done, and I think the Space Club will become very instrumental as, I mean, you have so many think tanks who are working on different aspects. It can grow itself and have the potential if it works in the right way, and then also get a lot of people from across India's 36 states and union territories, and also international expertise, authors, lawyers, etc., to come and educate us on the way forward, on what else can be done. So I think a lot of anticipation of what needs to be done can be done by the Space Club, and I'm really looking forward to working and learning more in the Space Club.
Thank you very much, man. In conclusion, I must ask you, what advice do you have for civil service aspirants who would like to join, maybe become space bureaucrats even? You know, the kind of passion that you have for space, I'm sure, would inspire a lot of other hobbies. What would
Can
be
I
your
say something
advice?
very candidly here?
Absolutely.
There are two departments in the bureaucracy, which are really not looked at as glamorous departments.
Right.
One is science and tech, and one is libraries. And I can tell you for sure that I worked in both. I curated the GLAM division in the Ministry of Culture.
What's the GLAM division? I meant to ask
So the GLAM division is basically galleries, library, archives, and museum. So it is a nomenclature which has been decided by ICOM, which is the international body on museums, right? So it is their parlance. When I looked at my job profile in the ministry, I found that I was doing this, but nobody called it the GLAM division. So I initiated a file and said, well, I'm looking at this division and this is the international parlance for this division. So I'd like my division to be called by this name because it will gain international traction in the market, and also people would understand this better. But that apart, I think, and I worked in archives and libraries, and today India has launched, the Honorable Prime Minister has launched, I think, a program which is very close to me called the Gyan Bharatam Mission, which is the manuscript mission, which is all all the archival knowledge. So India has always been a pioneer. You read Aryabhatta, who gave the concept of zero, Indian, right? Brahmagupta, who was born in Rajasthan, who gave a lot of concepts about maths and astronomy. So much has emerged from our manuscripts, which are very well preserved. Anna, if you looked at the Shastra on Shastra, because you also delve in that, we have Chanakya diplomacy, right? Which is preserved in the Mysore Museum. So I think these are very, very important. See how important the manuscript mission has become today. And it's time for the states, for the people to understand that the future will lie in preserving our knowledge. You know, there is nothing. There's a very beautiful poem by T.S. Eliot. I may not remember the entire thing, but he says that the present and the past are contained in the time future, the four quatrains, and the time future is embedded in the time past. So the present and the future are both interconnected very beautifully. And I think even in space, this will become very important. We can't move forward without actually looking at our archival knowledge. So what I'll tell the aspirants of the civil services, that you don't become a civil servant only by taking the exam. That is the pratham sopan, the first step on the stair. You have to groom yourselves. If at any age you get this idea that you want to be a civil servant, you have to groom yourselves from there, because the actual exam is not the UPSC exam. The actual exam is the one that life takes. I always say that while the letters in livelihood are longer than the letters in the foreword life, you must always prep for life and not for livelihood. When I was science and tech secretary, I never thought that this will come back to me in many ways. If all the world is a stage, right, then we are mere actors. And if a thing happens twice to you, which really means that you've only seen the preview of it. Picture abhi baki hai mere dost.
Right.
है ना? So that is
Absolutely.
I'll tell all the people that it's not necessary that you take the civil service exams only from the STEM.
Right.
I've seen a lot of people who did maths and physics and were for IITs, but just to clear the exam, they chose a different subject which they thought would be easy to clear. So the idea is not what subject you take. The idea is, can you develop a scientific bent of mind?
Right.
Come from whatever stream you come, and can we stop glamorizing departments? Because I think every department that has a minister is important. I realized that the science and tech department opened a wide space for me,
Right.
which would never have happened had I worked in any other department. So don't look at what department you get in life. Don't look at what assignment you get. Every moment, the here and the now matters. Whatever work you get, do it to the fullest of your ability. Even if you don't become a civil servant, if you become a journalist, if you become a person in the military or in the police or an artist or a writer, just do your job to the best of your abilities, and you never know what is written in the stars for you.
Right, absolutely. And on that note, I must thank you for being part of this very interesting discussion, and hope we have many more such interesting discussions on the Space Club of India.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.